Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Talk Evil to Me. I'm your host, Katie.
And I'm your host, Tim.
And we're so happy you're here. Today, this case is messy.
How messy?
It's really fucking messy, actually. It's really, really, really messy. Not only is it messy, it's very controversial. You're either on one side or you're on the other, and there's no in between, except I'm in between because I see both ways, but I don't agree with both ways. You'll see. All right, so we are going to Valdosta, Georgia, Lowndes High School specifically. So Lowndes High School had two gymnasiums. It had an old gym and a new gym. In the old gym is where they permanently stored the large wrestling mats, and they rolled them up and they stood them up and they put them in one specific corner all the time in this gym. And kids would use these mats on a regular basis to hide their stuff inside of them so that they didn't have to pay a locker fee to put their stuff in there. So they would put book bags, changes of clothes, whatever they needed inside of the mats, and then between classes come back, grab their stuff, and then go to the next class.
What school charges a locker fee?
That's one of the main things that people ask. They're like, what do you mean locker fee? There was a fee for locker usage. I don't know if it's because they didn't have enough for each student. I don't know if it was part of their maintenance fee, to pay their janitor. I really have no idea why they charged locker fees. It's irrelevant. They did. So it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, why are you charging kids to put their stuff away in a school? In general, what do you pay school taxes for?
That's what
I would assume that it goes towards things like that. I don't remember ever having to pay a locker fee. The only thing we had to pay was if we forgot our combination and they had to cut our lock off the locker.
I don't even think I ever used my locker.
I mean, I don't really think I used mine so much either, but the only time that I think a fee was ever involved with a locker was if we locked ourselves out of it and they had to cut into it. That was it. But that was my school. This is Georgia. I don't know what goes down in Georgia. So on the morning of January 11th, around 8:30 in the morning, a concerned mother walked into the school. There was the mother of Kendrick Johnson. She arrived at the school to ask them if he had shown up for class that morning because he did not show up home the night before. And he always came home. She was actually expecting him to come home after a basketball game. He was going to watch a freshman basketball game, and he never made it home that night. So around midnight on the 10th, she had called the police and reported him missing, and then waited until school opened the next morning to go in and ask them if they had seen him. So the people in the office, they look at the attendance records, they see that he wasn't counted for anywhere, and then they realize he's actually missing. So they help the mom print out missing persons flyers and get people together and kind of rally themselves together to try to find him, right? So they help the mom print these things out and they send her on her way to distribute them wherever she's going to take them. That same morning, around 10:30 in the morning, Coach Philip Pipela was entering the old gym with his life sports class, which I had to figure out what life sports is, and it's just everything. It's just like a hodgepodge. You play basketball, you can play tennis, you can play badminton. It's just teaching you about a little bit about each sport, so you, I guess, can figure out which one you like and then move on in life.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So he was entering with his life sports class, and in a class like that, not everybody participates all the time. So you had some kids who were out playing, you had some kids who were sitting on the bleachers, and then you had some kids who like to climb up on top of these mats and just hang out because the gym is surrounded with these 3-step bleachers, these tiny little short to the ground ones, and then you have a mat that's 6 feet off the ground. So of course your instinct is going to be to climb up on top of them and be a teenager. I don't know. I would climb up on top of them. I still climb up on top of things. So these two sisters, they decided that they were gonna sit this one out and they were gonna climb up on top of these mats and they were gonna lay down for this class period. So the first sister climbs up and she's up there for a minute or so, and she realizes she sees what she thinks is feet with socks on them sticking out of the middle of one of these mats. And she calls her sister over and she tells her to look at it. And she's like, just make sure I'm not crazy. You look at it. So the other sister looks at it and she realizes, I think I also see feet with socks on them sticking out of this mat. So both these sisters are like, this is weird. They think someone's playing a trick on them, that they put something in there to make it look like feet sticking out of a mat. So then they call over another one of their classmates. He gets up there. They point over to it and he looks at it and he's like, I'm seeing what you're seeing. So at this point, all of them are seeing feet with socks on them. So they're not necessarily sticking out of the mat, but like you can very easily see them from the top of the mat that they're in there. So the third kid sees it, and this is when they start calling over the coach. They're like, someone's in here. We got to get him out. So the coach goes over, he takes a look, he sees the same thing that they see, and immediately they start ripping down the mats because where this mat is up against the wall. Altogether, there's 21 mats up against this wall, right? Like standing in columns next to each other, like all pushed as far in the corner as they can go. So the one that whatever it is that they thought they saw was stuck inside of was all the way in the back. So they immediately start pulling all the mats down and getting them out of the way to get to this. Now these mats are not light, they're very heavy. And so he had one of the students actually help him move it out of the way. But in the process of moving it out of the way, they knocked down a science book, a yellow folder, and one shoe. Right? So they're not even worried about the stuff that's on top of the mats anyway. So they're just pulling these mats down. And in the process of them pulling the mats down to get to this one where they think that someone is stuck inside of it, they're knocking down these things that were sat on top of it. Right? So as soon as they get the mat laid down horizontally, the coach takes one look and he's like, everybody get out. You all have to go. He realizes this person is not alive anymore. I need to clear the area. So he sent everyone to the new gym except for the people who first saw him and helped him move the mats. All of those people were sent to the coach's office so they could wait for the police to get there because he wanted them to be like available for questioning if they had anything they needed to ask. So good on him for thinking of that, at least. So at this point in time, students are calling 911. The coach is calling 911. I think they got like 5 different 911 calls because everybody was trying to be helpful. Some called and hung up and 911 ended up calling them back because they're like, hey, you need us or no? So what's happening? So during this time, at this time, the school went into lockdown once he realized there was a dead body in the gym and they were in contact with the police. And the school called Jackie Johnson to inform her that a body had been found. They didn't have any positive identification at that point in time, but they just wanted her to be aware. Now, before I go any further on this whole case, I was trying to think of the best way to describe it when you're researching it. So, in mini golf, how you have like that one course where it's like one giant hole, right? And then you hit the ball into the big hole and there's other little holes in it and your ball can either come out all the way over there or all the way over there. That's what this case is. So everyone starts in the big main hole. And then by the end of whatever their research is, they're either all the way over here or all the way over there. There's no in between. They don't meet up in the middle. So keep that in mind as we go through all of the things that are just out there. All of the things. Because there's a lot of things. Okay? So Detective Whitner arrived at the high school first. He was directed to the old gym where he met with the school officers, and they approached the area together to make sure that nobody was touching anything, nobody was compromising this crime scene. He was just in there to look. So he visually confirmed that there was a deceased person there, and then he called his captain and advised her that she should come down immediately. After the captain was there, they did on-the-spot interviews of the coach and all of the kids who were involved in finding him and pulling the mat down. Everyone's stories lined up. There was no inconsistencies in anyone's stories. Everyone arrived at the gym, sat on top of the mats, saw feet again, confirmed it a third time. Then they got the coach and everybody started yelling and freaking out. The body inside of the mat would be identified as 17-year-old sophomore Kendrick Lamar Johnson. Kendrick Lamar Johnson was born on October 10th of 1995. He was an athlete among athletes. He played basketball. He played football. He was on the track team. He loved sports. His parents said he was a very outgoing person. Nobody really had any qualms with him. He was just a teenage boy. Like, he wasn't getting into trouble. He wasn't doing anything. He was just living his life. No, like, records with the principal. Nothing saying he's a bad kid, you know. He was a good kid. Around 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 10th, the day before he was found, the school surveillance cameras captured Kendrick Johnson walking into the old gym to retrieve a pair of shoes that he and another student shared. So they had this one community pair of shoes that they would switch to in between their classes if they had to go to a class where they needed more sporty shoes, because you can't crease the shoes, right? So they would change out of their day shoes, their outfit shoes, into these Adidas. And when they were done, they would go put them back and put their regular shoes on. So they shared these shoes. And neither of them wanted to pay for a locker. So he shared these shoes with another student. But they had stored the shoes prior to January 10th. So January 10th, they were just coming back from Christmas break.
Okay.
So when they stored the shoes, there wasn't as many mats in the gym that there are now. So the day that his body was found, there was 21 mats lined up on the wall. I'm not sure how many were there when the shoes were put in there, but enough to where he could just tilt the mat down, grab them, and move on. He couldn't do that because it's tucked way against the wall. It's like 3 rows in. There's no tilting the mat down to get what he needed out. So that led him to have to get up on the top and try to reach down into these mats to get the shoes before he had to get to his next class. So his next class was his weightlifting class, which is what he was going to change his shoes for, and he was marked absent from that class. So between 1:30 p.m. and any time on, he didn't show up to any more classes. That video of him walking into the gym
was the only one they had.
Was the last time he was seen alive. That was it.
But on that surveillance, they didn't see anybody else walk in, they didn't see anybody else leave?
Not when he walked in. So when he walked in alone. He wasn't following anybody. Nobody was following him. There was 35 cameras, I think, throughout the school that they ended up getting the footage from. And none of them show anybody following him going to meet anyone. That's not to say that people did not end up in the gym after him. But around the time that he went in there, nobody went in there with him. So we're going to go through this fun timeline of events, okay? And you got to keep an open mind here from both angles, because I feel like the main problem with this case is people, they hear one thing and they just stick with it. So we're going to go through this whole timeline little by little. We're going to pick it apart, and you just have to keep an open mind as we go through all of it. You can't You can't just hone in on one fact, because once you hone in on one thing,
that's all.
That's it. You're never gonna get past that. You're gonna make your decision like right then and there, and that's gonna be it. And you can't do that with this case. This is not one of those cases where you can just be like, that's it, it's done, I know what happened. Because I don't even think anybody still, yes, we have a pretty good idea of what happened, but nobody knows for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So January 11th, 2013, 21 hours after he was last seen, Kendrick Lamar Johnson's body was found in Lowndes County High School gymnasium inside of a gym mat by fellow students and Coach Pipelo. Coach Pipelo stated that he did not touch the body at all. Okay? Let that sink in there. He didn't touch him. So this part, I can't tell you how many news articles I read. I can't tell you how many podcasts I listened to, how many YouTube videos I watched. I even read the actual police records of his statement saying that he did not touch the body, right? But if you listen to all these podcasts, you read all these different news articles, it goes, he didn't touch the body. He did touch the body. He grabbed him by the ankles. He pulled him out. There's so many different recollections of what happened, but he himself on his police statement said he did not touch the body. That's what I'm going with. He did not touch the body. Okay? He stated that they only moved the outer mats and lowered the one with his body in it to the floor horizontally so that they could try to help him before they realized that he was no longer alive. So these mats, they were 6 feet high, and the particular mat that he was found in had an opening of 14.5 inches. Now, Kendrick, from shoulder to shoulder, was 19 inches. So a lot of the questioning for this comes from, well, if this mat opening was only 14.5 inches and his shoulders are 19 inches, how is he putting himself in there? But it's also been proven, one, he's not going in there like this,
no.
Right? He's going in there with his arms stretched out above his head, which immediately takes some length off of you. And you can bend yourself in a little bit. Like, just because your shoulders spread out are one length, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can fit into. We see people crawl into tiny little crevices for fun. I don't know why they do it for fun, but they do. And they shouldn't be able to, but they contort themselves into a way that they fit into something that they normally wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
This is a known thing. So everyone gets hung up on these numbers because 14.5 and 19 don't go together. But depending on how he contorted himself, they do. He was 5 feet and 10 inches tall, so he was just a little bit shorter than the full length of the mat. So his body was found face down with one arm stretched above his head, and then the other one was kind of tucked in, so. I'm not sure if he was trying to get that one out with him also, or
could have been on the outside trying to pull himself up, but he slipped.
Right. So that's part of the thing. So some people they speculate that he reached in with the one arm and kept the other arm on the top of the mat so that he could pull himself back up when he could, but realized he couldn't actually bend his elbow to be able to pull himself back up. So then he tried to pull it inside to then hoist himself up. Again, these are just what people are assuming happened while he was inside of this mat, right? So he was found face down, one arm stretched above his head, the other kind of compressed against his side. His right arm was also entangled in the wire from his headphones. So they were just fucking wrapped around his arm. His cell phone was still in his pocket.
So wait, hold on. So they had a cell phone. So pretty sure that smartphone like most kids have.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think about trying to track it at all when they realized he was missing?
Well, it was only 21 hours. They don't... I would like to say that police hop on it right away, but they don't.
Maybe not. His mother.
Well, who's to say that she could track his phone?
Well, I'm sure, like, it's a question, like, most kids nowadays all have iPhones. Very rare even have Androids.
Yeah.
But you can track, and you know it, a kid's iPhone if they're on that plan with you.
Yeah, but I mean, this is 11 years ago, and it wasn't...
Just a thought.
We don't even know if he had an iPhone. It doesn't even say what kind of phone he ever had, just that he had a phone. And judging by the headphones that were wrapped around his arm, it was not an iPhone. Because they were just like your normal, like, black, like Samsung-looking headphones. Right. So, 2 pairs of shoes were found at the scene. One pair of shoes was, like, wedged behind his legs in the mat. And those were the shoes that he was wearing. Like, you can very clearly see them on the video footage of him walking to the gym. Those are the shoes that were on his feet, right? And then, if you remember, I said when they were pulling the mats over, a shoe fell down. Mm-hmm. And then one shoe was found down inside of the mat where he was supposedly reaching for it. So the pair of shoes that he was trying to reach in there to get, one of them was already out. And that is left out in so many people who cover this case. Everyone says both shoes were down in there. Both shoes were not in there. They were not in there. One of the shoes was out. It actually ended up falling over near the bleachers. So it wasn't really even anywhere near his body. Stop saying the shoes were in there with him. One shoe was in there, which kind of leads me to believe that he got the first shoe and then went back for the second one, right? Because why would the one shoe be out and one shoe wouldn't?
Makes sense.
So the only blood found at the scene was the blood that pooled like underneath the mat. There was no blood on the outside of the mat. There was no blood on the shoe. Oh my God. Forget about that. Everyone hyperfixates on that too. If there was a pool of blood down at the bottom of the mat, why is the shoe now covered in blood and why? Okay. He had no actual wounds on him to produce blood. Most of this blood was because he hung upside down for 21 hours and all of the blood rushed to his head. All of the blood in his body was now from here up. It wasn't anywhere else. It has settled here, right? So not only do you get intense swelling because it's just, my fingers grow 10 times the size they are when I'm hot. I can only imagine what would happen from hanging upside down for 21 hours, right? So all of this blood causing pressure on his skin also caused his skin to tear. What's going to happen when your skin tears? Blood is going to come out. Blood, body fluid, whatever it is going to come out of wherever it needs to release this pressure in the skin. So no blood was found outside the mat. None was found on the school book. None was found on the yellow folder. And none was found on his lower extremities. So, like, there was nothing from his waist down. There was blood that was found on part of the wall near the mats. They had it tested, and it was determined not to be from Kendrick. So we'll circle back to that. And according to paramedics, when they arrived, Kendrick's head, arms, and torso were exposed and out of the mat. I want to go back to the part where the coach said he didn't touch him. Mm-hmm. So how did half of him get out of the mat?
Exactly.
Like,
I caught that.
I don't care if you tried to pull him out because you thought he was alive, but, like, own up to it, because if he was stuck inside of the mat, how did half of him get out of the mat just by you taking it down? You know? It's that part, a little sketchy to me. I feel like he just didn't want to get in trouble for touching the body, so he's like, I didn't touch it, and he's, like, sticking with that. Confirmed in the video that was taken of the crime scene that from, like, the bottom of his rib cage up is outside of the mat. January 14th, 2013. The first autopsy is performed by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Medical Examiner's Office. KJ's family attends a press conference January 14th. We're what? 3 days in? We're 3 days in. They know nothing. They know zero things. Nothing has been said to them. No one has been named a suspect. No one has said foul play. Still under investigation. Literally just started. The autopsy's just being done. Mm-hmm. His family attends a press conference and immediately blames two brothers, Brian and Brandon Bell, before any investigation ever started. They went on to live TV and said it was these two boys and we know it. How do you know it? January 16th, 2013, a vigil was held for him. Fast forward, April 9th, 2013, Johnson's family begins to fight for justice and answers. So they all rallied outside of Lowndes County Courthouse, speaking out, quote, "We don't think, we know that he was murdered," end quote. They're dead set that this was not an accident and that someone murdered him.
But that brings me back to the beginning when you said he was a good kid. He had no problems with anybody. Mm-hmm. But now he's got problems with somebody.
Correct. Two bodies. Yeah. So April 25th, 2013, the Johnson's family and supporters, again, outside the Lowndes County Judicial Complex, decided to have another rally in protest, and they stopped people from getting into the buildings. They formed a blockade, and then some people ended up arrested, and then the rest were told, you got to get out of here. May 2nd, 2013, Kendrick's death was officially ruled to be accidental by positional asphyxia. So the autopsy that was performed on January 14th, May 2nd, they finally got the results from it. It was deemed an accident. It was accidental positional asphyxia. Accidental positional asphyxia. Say that 3 times fast. Okay. So friends, family, and civil rights activists all rallied together to march out in front of the high school and demand justice for him on this same exact day. June 15th, 2013. 1 month later. June 15th, 2013, Kendrick's body is exhumed for a second autopsy at the request of his parents. So this autopsy is performed by Dr. William R. Anderson. It resulted in unexplained, non-accidental, blunt force trauma to the neck, particularly noticing hemorrhaging near his carotid artery. So this second person does an autopsy and realizes that there's some bruising happening on the side of his neck where it wasn't put in the original autopsy report. So he's backing the family's claims that there's something more to this than what everyone is saying. This autopsy also brings to the Johnsons' attention that Kendrick's organs were replaced with newspaper. They were no longer inside of his body. So, interesting. Right. So I looked into a little bit, and it's not uncommon for bodies to be stuffed with things once the organs. Okay, let me actually backtrack on that. It's not uncommon for the bodies to be filled with something like cotton or sawdust, and then mixed with like an embalming hardener type of thing, if the organs are so far decomposed that they have to be incinerated.
So we're paper macheing these dead people too now. Yeah,
basically. So newspaper is not like such a common use for it, but it's also not an illegal thing. Like they didn't do anything wrong by putting the newspaper in there. Like, yeah, is it like the best practice? No. But are they going against something they shouldn't be doing? Also, no. They did their jobs just fine. And it also was very widely known that the funeral home that did all of this for the family did it at no cost. So, yeah, maybe they used newspaper because they were trying to cut costs on whatever it was that they were doing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what's in there. Yeah. As long as they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, whether they use newspaper or cotton or sawdust, it doesn't matter what it was that they used to take place of those organs that were disposed of. So, October 18th, 2013, an anonymous donor offers $10,000 reward for any information that helps the case. The donor gave them a 90-day window for anyone to step up. After 90 days, then it would be recanted and given back. So at this point in time, they were also doing a lot with the church in their area, and they gave the task of getting this information of the $10,000 reward out there to the public to Reverend Floyd Rose. He was in charge of keeping track of the donation and how long they had left, and like making sure everybody knew, like, hey, you help us out, we'll help you out. On October 25th, 2013, Ebony Magazine released a story on Kendrick, and they headlined it, "Did a Fight Lead to Kendrick Johnson's Murder?" And in this article, they named two brothers, Clark and Chris Martins, a senior and a sophomore who apparently attended Lowndes High School, being involved in his death. There is no Clark and Chris Martins at that school. They don't exist. So the Bell family obviously knew that they were talking about them and targeting them. So they sued Ebony Magazine, and Ebony removed every article off of their site with those names and everything in it, as they should, because stop spreading lies. This is part of the reason that this case is so ridiculous, because again, everyone took one thing and ran with it. They didn't even think to ask any questions, like look for any explanations to anything. They were just like, oh, two white guys, black kid, done. That's it. And I really hate to play like the whole racism thing. And I know that racism is a big thing, and it's very much out there in the world. But there was no indications of these boys having any negative feelings towards him. So why is that your go-to, right? Why are you automatically attacking these two boys and making their lives also miserable in the process? So, October 30th, 2013, the judge grants the request of the surveillance videos and orders the school to provide copies for them to look over. On October 31st of 2013, the U.S. Attorney Michael Moore announces that his office, along with the FBI, will be involved in the investigation from this point on. And around this time, the Bell brothers also began to receive death threats, because there is a whole community behind the fact that they are murderers, whether they're proved murderers or not. Guilty before proven guilty. November 7th of 2013, the Johnson's family attorney questions the video quality, and they hyperfixate on the footage of one camera in particular, and it's the camera that's supposed to look at the gym mats, right? So the attorney states, quote, "The fact that this particular camera out of all the cameras is out of focus, that it is not positioned in such a way that you get any image showing the top edge of the mat, we believe is anything but a coincidence," end quote. Okay.
I can see that point of view, though.
That's fine. I will give that to you. So this is where I say, don't stop looking. Mm-hmm. Don't stop asking questions. Don't stop investigating it, right? So, yeah, they're going to say, why is this camera so shitty? Why does this camera have bad quality? What's going on with this one specific camera? Why doesn't it look where it's supposed to be looking? Okay, so 1 year prior to that, the camera was hit with a ball in the gym. And from then on, it's been like that. It wasn't intentionally put that way to cover up anything of the mats over there. It was hit with a ball, and it remained the way it did. And that's it. There's no deeper meaning to it. There's no malicious intent. It's just ignoring it. Yeah, like you just, oh, you hit it? Okay, whatever, move on. Because I'm sure in their minds are like, what does it matter if this one little camera is out of focus, right? Ask questions. So that was debunked going back in the footage history where the camera was hit. January 11th, 2014. So 1 year later, January 11th, 2014, a rally is held for Kendrick at the park to mark his 1 year anniversary of his death. And this is also a good opportunity for his parents to, again, demand justice, start asking for answers, asking people to step forward with whatever it is that they have that can help them out in their investigation. January 24th, 2014 is 90 days are up. The $10,000 reward is now off the table. It's no longer valid, and no information was brought forward in between those 90 days. January 31st of 2014, an anonymous email was sent, and it claims that Brian Bell and Ryan Hall killed Kendrick. February 7th, 2014, the Johnson family files a lawsuit against the Harrington Funeral Home for negligence. The lawsuit was investigated and dropped as no negligence was found. So this is a funeral home that removed his organs and put the newspaper in there. So they filed a lawsuit against the funeral home because they viewed that as being negligent towards Kendrick. And
again, like you said, they did it for free at no cost for the family.
Correct. They were mad. They were upset because they said the funeral home didn't tell them that they removed his organs or that his organs were disposed of for any reason. But also, I'm not entirely sure that they have to tell them. I don't think like legally they have to be like, hey, like we threw all his organs into the inferno over here and burned them because they weren't good enough. Like, I don't think that they have to. I think they were just more upset that it happened. Because, I mean, coming from a parent, I would also be a little upset if I knew that like you took something from my kid and didn't tell me. Not that I would have been able to do anything with it myself, but I would still want to know, like, are you whole down there? Are you missing something? On February 7th, 2014, the U.S. Attorney Michael Moore sent letters to both the Bell brothers informing them that they were targets in this investigation, as well as a letter to their father, Rick Bell, alleging civil rights violations. So they got the email on January 31st saying these boys did it. Not Brandon and Brian, but Brian and another student, Ryan Hall. But in the letter sent out, they were sent to Brandon and Brian saying they were under investigation. March 20th of 2014, the email was traced to the sender, and the sender was interviewed and confessed that she made it all up. That she heard some rumors going around the school, and she figured that they had to have been true, so she wrote the email. So that was recanted. July 29th, 2014, the Johnson family files a lawsuit against the Lowndes Board of Education for wrongful death, basing it off of an event in 2011. He was found in 2013. Okay. So this is going to tie in the Bell family.
Right.
Okay. So November 28th of 2011, the football team was on a bus heading to a game. Brian Bell was on this bus. He had to pee. He told the coach he had to go to the bathroom. The coach told him to pee in a water bottle. That's normal. I feel like that's very normal. So as Brian is trying to pee into this water bottle, Kendrick bumped into him, as a teenage boy will do, and caused him to pee on himself. So Brian swung. Kendrick swung back. They were separated. They played their game. They made up. Everything was fine. But at the end of it, neither of them were allowed to ride back on the bus. Brian had to ride home with his family, and Kendrick had to ride home with the deputy because his family didn't attend that game. So either way, it was a small little teenage argument that was squashed after it was over. Like, he was pissed that he made him pee on himself. I would be pissed too, you know? So that is what the Johnson family is harping on. And that's how they know that the bellboys killed Kendrick because of a dumb teenage boy incident that happened in 2011. No. They lost their son. And I do sympathize for them with that. But they're grasping at straws a lot of time to find a reason that somebody would hurt him.
Yes.
Anything other than the horrible accident that it could have been. Like, you have the potential that it's this horrible freak accident, or you have the potential that someone did this to him. And they're not even... The fact of it being an accident is so far out of their view. I don't even think it ever was in their view, to be honest. They immediately, from the get-go, they're like, no, someone did this to him. There's zero questions about it. So they're trying to pull anything that they possibly can to connect people to wanting to hurt him.
Because I think if they could find something, again, in my opinion, it would just bring them that peace they need.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, I don't feel like you're doing it in the right way. But that's just me. Everyone is different, and everyone grieves different, and everybody looks for answers differently. But I don't think attacking other high school kids without any actual solid information is the way to handle it. But all of the classmates that were questioned about, like, this little tussle that happened said that Kendrick and Brian were fine after it. Like, there was no grudge between them. They got along fine. They were still on the same football team 2 years later. So November 18th, 2014, a press conference is held, and the Johnsons plead for anyone to come forward with information if they have it. So I will give it to the family. They are very active in finding anything out. For about, I think, like 25 weeks straight, they stood on the same corner with their signs and everything, asking for justice for their son. Very persistent, very dedicated. They obviously loved him. They're very, very hurt. They're missing him terribly. And it just sucks that they're turning their sadness into revenge for people that they don't even know if they deserve the revenge or not. So December of 2014, Brandon Bell is confirmed to be off campus at the time of death. His coach, his bus driver, and his teammates who were all on the bus with him all verified that he was there. He wasn't anywhere near it. And cell phone records show that the bus was 85 miles away from the school at the time that Kendrick is last seen on video going into the gym. So again, he wasn't in there. Brian Bell was also confirmed to be in his classroom by his classmates and his teacher at the time that Kendrick was in the gym. And even on all the cameras in the hallway, like, he's not seen leaving his classroom. So you have one brother 85 miles away. You have the other brother in his classroom with his teacher and classmates. Everyone is verifying that. January 15th, 2015. So 2 years in now. The Johnson family files a $100 million lawsuit accusing classmates of killing Kendrick. They allege that an unnamed female lured their son into the old gym where he was attacked by the Bell brothers under the command of their father, Rick Bell. So there was 38 names on this list, and it basically included everyone involved in the investigation. So in this $100 million lawsuit, they had the Bell brothers, the Bell father, the investigating team from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, local law enforcement, the school officials. Everybody was going down. They didn't care. January 28th of 2015, 7 members of the Johnson family are found guilty of obstruction of justice from the April 2013 protests when they wouldn't let anybody past the doors. So they were sentenced to a year in prison, but it was reduced as long as they stayed out of trouble for the next year to come. So as long as they didn't get in any trouble, they didn't have to serve any time in prison. February 4th, 2015, because of all the lobbying and everything on social media highlighting the Bells as murderers, Florida State University withdrew its football scholarship that they had offered to Brian Bell that he had signed on for the year prior to. So 2 years after Kendrick's death, these boys, their life is still being affected by everything that's going on. Again, you're either on one side or you're on the other, but without actual evidence, anything, stop ruining these other boys' lives. So because of it being spread so much over social media by this whole group, I think their Facebook page has like 80,000 followers. Like, it's got a lot of people. That's a lot of people to be sharing things across the internet and to friends, family, people anywhere and everywhere.
That's the thing, like with social media, once it's on there, it's never coming off.
It's never coming off.
So regardless how you finish this podcast, those boys probably still to this day are being ruined.
Yeah.
And that's me as a father. That's just disgusting. I don't care what it is. It's just disgusting.
So on July 21st of 2015, U.S. Marshals raided the Bells' home, raided Brian's dorm room, and seized all of the computers and cell phones and any electronic device that belonged to the family. They also raided Ryan Hall's home and took everything electronic from his house and brought him in for questioning. And they also raided the girlfriend of Brian Bell at the time, Taylor Eakin. They also raided her home and took her electronics and her parents' electronics.
This is the girl that they claim lured him in.
So they never actually named a girl, but in one of the many conspiracies that they have come up with, Kendrick was supposedly talking to Taylor behind Brian's back. Everyone's computer and cell phone and every little bit of social media history was checked, and nothing, not one thing was found to correlate that, yet we continue to spread it. We continue to say, he was killed because he was talking to his girlfriend behind his back. You don't have anything to prove that. Not one thing proves that. You're just saying it. And then one person says it and the next person says it. And it just gets, it's like, it's a domino effect of spreading false information. And it's dumb. This was all done, like, even though the email was ruled a hoax, they still took everything and like looked into these people, because whether it's a hoax or not, then you never know if there's some type of truth to it, and maybe she like took it back because she was afraid or something. You know, it doesn't necessarily, just because she said she lied doesn't necessarily mean that she did, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't. So they wanted to be thorough and investigate this, so they took everything from the Bell family, from Ryan Hall's family, and from Taylor Eakin's family, and found zero things to tie anyone to anything. Zero. August 6th of 2015, Dalton Ray Chansey is arrested for yet another false statement claiming that 3 people, 2 who didn't even exist, just 2 names that he made up, killed Kendrick, and he had overheard them talking about it in school. Like, they did their investigation into his claim. They realized 2 people don't even fucking exist. And then he was arrested for false accusations.
Now, this is after that money reward got recanted.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. So, August 12th, 2015, the Johnson's family amends the complaint to the wrongful death suit that they had in motion. So, you know, they had the $100 million lawsuit against everyone under the sun. So they amended it, and they are now theorizing that Sheriff Chris Prine and Superintendent Wes Taylor worked together to help they named him John Doe because he doesn't have a name, and a certain other unnamed individual gain access to the old gymnasium to stage the scene and manufacture evidence. They claim the group was let in, and they placed KJ's body inside the gym mat and rolled it up before standing it in such a way that KJ was upside down inside of it. And they left it to be discovered the next day, uncoincidentally, by Superintendent Taylor's daughters. So the two girls who found him initially were the daughters of the superintendent. So now they amended their statement to bend it, to twist it, to involve the superintendent because his daughters were the ones who happened to see his feet first in this mat. Again, grasping at straws. You're just pulling anything you possibly can out of anywhere you can pull it from. November 15th, 2015, the Johnsons are sued for more than $800,000 in attorney fees for the people involved in the lawsuit against them. And they're sued for $1 million in defamation and slander charges from the Bell family. March 2nd, 2016, the $100 million lawsuit is withdrawn by the Johnsons. They gave up on that one in 2016. June 20th of 2016, the case is closed again and ruled an accidental death. August 18th, 2016, the judge ruled in favor of the plaintiffs against the Johnsons, entitling them to the attorney reimbursements that they were suing for. August 23rd of 2016, the Johnsons filed yet another lawsuit, naming many of the previous people. This time, there's a total of 41 names on the list instead of 38. Again, claiming KJ was murdered, and all of these people are either part of it or part of covering it up. I'm sorry, 41 people are not out to cover up.
They're pulling out the yellow book. Getting all these names.
Everybody. June 14th of 2017, that lawsuit is dismissed.
As should be.
Yes. July 11th of 2017, the Johnsons filed a lawsuit again. August 10th of 2017, the Johnsons are ordered to pay over $300,000 in fees to the families that they've been harassing this whole entire time.
Not just harassing. Like I said before, it's ruining.
Mm-hmm. Once they were ordered to pay it, the Johnsons appealed it immediately. January 5th of 2018, the Johnsons filed to have Kendrick exhumed again for a third autopsy.
This poor boy.
So 5 years after his death, this is the second time he's being exhumed, and this is the third autopsy that is taking place.
I think this is generally worse than him dying in the first place.
Let him rest.
Exactly.
I understand you want answers, but digging him up out of the ground time and time and time again is not a solution. You're not going to get anything different than you got.
Mm-hmm.
So just let him be. And it's not even like they were having the autopsy done by a different person. It was the same person who did the second one who gave them the answer that they wanted, that there was something fishy about it, right? So why do it again? So they filed to have him exhumed for his third autopsy. March 28th of 2018, the appeal to not pay the $300,000 was denied, so they still have to pay that. June 22nd of 2018, the judge granted the request to exhume KJ's body one more time. August 25th of 2018, the autopsy is performed. It's not until November 15th of 2018 that the results of this autopsy are released, saying the same exact thing that he said the second time. Blunt force trauma to the neck, slight bruising, that's it. Nothing changed. October 11th of 2019, the Johnsons put in a request for both federal and state investigations to be reopened in the case. June 8th of 2020, the Johnsons start an online petition to help them persuade the case in being reopened. They did have a goal of 1.5 million signatures, but I couldn't find anywhere how many they actually got to. So I'm really not sure. But in March of 2021, March 10th to be specific, the case was officially reopened by Sheriff Polk, who he himself offered $500,000 of his own money as a reward for any information that would lead this case to a conviction.
Real quick, off topic. How much are these cops making there in Georgia? I'm just saying.
Don't know. I just want to reiterate that it was his own money. His own money. He offered up $500,000 of his own money for any information that would lead to a conviction in this case. So now the first person offered $10,000 of their own money. I mean, anonymously, but still, as a reward for any information that would lead to something. The sheriff is offering $500,000 of his own money as a reward for information that will lead to anything. Not once have the Johnsons offered any type of money as a reward for any information in what they claim is the murder of their son.
No, because they're too busy suing everybody else.
Sue happy. Everyone, you get sued, you get sued, you get sued. They're suing everyone. And on top of it, they also have a GoFundMe. So you can afford to put up money for a reward. There's no reason you can't, because I think when I looked at the GoFundMe, they had like $70,000 raised or something out of like some ridiculous goal. I think it was like 300,000. I don't know.
Oh, it just happened.
Their attorney fees.
There you go.
Ooh, piecing that together.
You're welcome.
So March 17th, 2021, the Johnsons provided new evidence that was alleged to be a recorded confession. This recording was a short 30-second clip in which you hear a male voice saying, quote, "They're gonna catch me anyways. I should have never done that. I was young and stupid. Man, Kendrick didn't deserve that. They're gonna catch me." End quote. And the Johnsons claim that this evidence was sold to them from a second cousin. It was sold to them by a second cousin for $1,000. May 12th of 2021, after some investigation, the evidence of the recording was deemed to be yet another hoax. Shocker.
Well, with that much of a reward out there, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of hoaxes coming.
But this one was from the Johnsons. So it's speculated that recording came from one of the people that the Johnsons were suing, since they had a list of 41 fucking people. So that's what's speculated, that it came from someone who was just angry with them to try to give them false hope. So in January of 2022, a little less than a year after the case was reopened by Sheriff Polk, it was closed again. He deemed again for the second time that no criminal charges were to be filed, and it was ruled as an accidental death. This is where we talk about all the things that just do or don't add up, right?
Right.
So we're going to circle back to the blood on the wall. That wasn't Kendrick's. Whose was it?
Mm-hmm.
It was never tested for anybody else's blood. So they tested it, it wasn't his, and then they just moved on. They didn't look any further to see whose blood was actually on the wall. I, for one, would like for them to be like, okay, let's look into this a little bit more. Maybe there was a fight, you don't know. And people are like, oh, well, it's a gym, there's going to be blood on the wall. But if you look at the picture, like, there's a decent amount of blood on the wall. It's not just like one little spot. There's like...
Almost like a splatter, or
no, but there's like a couple big marks that drip down, and then like a couple little marks in between. So like it's
like someone got slammed against the wall type of marks.
I don't really know. Like, but it's dry blood. It's dry old blood, and that's fine. But like, still, just appease everybody and check it out. Everybody also was hyper focused on the fact that there was bloody tissues in the girls' bathroom. It's the girls' bathroom. You're gonna find bloody tissues in there. They tested it. It was female DNA. Shocker.
Let me just say, the amount of bloody tissues and what you have not, I found working at an older job in the women's room. Just
assume that there's a bloody tissue in there somewhere. Yeah. Just assume that in every women's bathroom there's a bloody tissue.
Yeah.
Okay? So
Women can bleed, okay?
And we do, unfortunately. If his body wasn't touched or moved by anyone, why was he halfway out on the mat? That's something that I get stuck on.
So, hear me out, right? I was thinking that when they put that mat down, do we know for a fact that they're nice or they dropped it down?
No idea.
Because, no idea. Because, say it did drop down. It could have because of the extra weight of a body, and we stated that these mats aren't light.
Right.
Maybe when it hit impact, the body shifted.
It's a possibility.
It is.
But, like...
that much? Maybe not, but still a possibility.
For half of him to fall out of it?
Still a possibility. If he was already half out, or half in.
Yeah. Yeah. During all of the investigations and everything, Rick Bell would not let Brian or Brandon give a statement. He wouldn't let them talk to anybody. That doesn't look good.
No, but also goes to they were still not adults. They were under the age of 18.
Mm-hmm. But from a standpoint of people outside looking in who are already thinking that this is a cover-up and he works with the FBI, so he must be pulling strings and doing whatever he has to do, for you to also not let your sons give their statement and they be the only 2 students in the school who did not give a statement, it doesn't look good.
I can see that.
So if they were so innocent, why didn't you let them be interviewed? So they could literally say, hey, I was on a bus at a game. I don't have any problems with him. Hey, I was in class. You can ask my teacher. Which, I mean, they did end up verifying their alibis, but...
at a later point.
But still, just, like, let them... I don't know. Let them speak their piece on it. Another thing that really seemed sketchy to people is that they waited 6 hours before calling the coroner. So, legally and standard practice, the minute they have a dead body, they're supposed to call the coroner. They waited 6 hours after being called to the scene. And they processed the scene and did everything they needed to do.
Do you think they were
then
possibly waiting for school to be out?
They closed school early. They sent people home.
Right.
So, again, you're looking a little sketchy. The captain at the time did say, like, it wasn't intentional. Like, there was no malice behind it. We were trying to preserve as much as we could from the scene. And they checked every bit of the school. And from top to bottom, all the way out to the parking lot. Hence how they ended up in the girls' bathroom, right? So they were looking into every little piece thoroughly. Obviously, that's going to take some time, be it 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. So usually they would do this around the coroner, but they didn't want anyone touching anything unless they were investigating it. So I don't work there. I don't know. So we're going to get to some of the claims of the dad, right? So in almost every press conference, the dad is, you killed my son, you're going to pay for it, whatever. He claims that Kendrick's nails were freshly cut when he went to identify him. And he says that he didn't, like, cut his nails regularly like that. So, like, it was weird to him that his nails were freshly clipped.
Like they were removing DNA, like if you scratch or something.
Right. There's no fingernails that were found anywhere or anything. Also, in, like, any of the autopsy photos, you don't see a close-up of his nails either. So I can't either confirm or deny that his nails were freshly cut. Nobody else stated that. None of... like, not any of the autopsy reports or anything like that. It's just what the dad is saying. Mm-hmm. So there's that. He also says that he was tased with a stun gun.
Or there would be burn marks.
So in the crime scene photo of him laying like out of the mat. His shirt is up a little bit, and on his hip there's two little like burn marks. Ideally, that looked like they would be from a stun gun.
Right.
So I'll give that to you.
Hold on, but during the autopsy, when they
wasn't marked, yeah. But you can clearly see it in the pictures. Right. It's very visible in the crime scene photos of when he's laying on the ground that you can see these two distinct marks that would look as if they were from a stun gun. Maybe he was just being a boy at some point. I feel like boys do dumb things.
No.
Yes, they do. So
I can't bear it.
Why do you always gotta go there with it?
Because I love you.
I think that's a lie.
I think what you want.
Anyway, so boys are dumb and reckless. Tell me you and your friends at 17, 18 wouldn't try to stun gun each other if you had one. Well, you 100% would. You can sit there and act like you wouldn't, but you would.
You know, I'm just going to say yeah.
Well, because you did? Like,
no,
what?
No. You were with me that age.
Irrelevant. So...
But I absolutely put a stun gun on a metal pole while a friend was touching it? Yeah.
Yeah. So boys do dumb things. So there's no telling if that stun gun was from that day, from the day before, from when. Mm-hmm. You have no idea when it was from. He literally could have just been doing something stupid with his friends because...
But in serious talk now, like you said, there look like there's two distinctive marks, right? From a stun gun. Father of the Bells boys being FBI agent
would have one.
Would definitely have a stun gun. So maybe one of the boys did get a hold of it. So now
maybe
I could see being on either side if you put it into that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the father also claims that Kendrick was beaten. None of the autopsies back that claim. The cause of swelling in his face, to the extreme that it was from his body being suspended upside down for 21 hours.
Like you claimed in the beginning.
So when his father saw him, and
the pictures I saw,
the pictures are not good. They're not great, but you can see how large this boy's face is because all of the blood in his body is in his head. Mm-hmm. It's not because he got beat. It's because all of his blood is in his head.
And again, during the autopsy, they would be able to tell if he had deeper bruising, any fractures from being beat.
Right.
To look like he did in those photos.
Right. And, I mean, I'm not sure how many people have seen a lot of post-mortem photos, mm-hmm. but 21 hours later, not only is he hanging upside down, but 21 hours later, his body's going to start to bloat. That's just a part of decomposition.
Especially, too, because like you said, that's a small space. He was wider, so he was just constricted in there. Mm-hmm. And then in there, it's not cold.
Right.
So you have all these different factors playing.
So you saw the autopsy photo where his face is just not anything that anybody should ever see. It's not anything that a parent should ever have to look at, right? My problem with the family is that picture, one of the most gruesome pictures that you could possibly find of him, is the picture that they chose to have plastered on their t-shirts to fight for justice for him. Not a picture of him happy and smiling and living his life and like justice for Kendrick. No, it's justice for Kendrick with his autopsy photo.
The worst thing you could have chosen.
Why would you want that?
To make people feel guilty, of course.
And it worked. It worked 100%. The amount of threads that I have read where people are just attacking one another. This is also why I say you can't be... There's one or the other. There's no in between. People are attacking one another because they're like, oh, he was very clearly beaten. You can see it. Da, 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 da. Again, bodies decompose. Bodies
bloat.
Yeah, that's the word. Bodies bloat. Hanging upside down for 21 hours is gonna do things to your face.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna look like you. I would not want to spread to the world my kid looking the way that he did.
No, absolutely not.
I wouldn't even want to look at it, let alone wear a t-shirt with it on there, just proudly walking around with that on there. I want you to see my kid the way I see my kid, you know? So that's one of the biggest problems I have with the family, is that they're so sympathy hungry,
mm-hmm.
that they're doing whatever they need to make people be on their side and feel bad and agree with them that he was murdered. But I'm sorry, an autopsy photo of a bloated face that clearly, he's so bloated to the point where his skin was starting to slip off. That's not an indication of him being beaten. Like, at all. That is not an indication of him being beaten. And then in one of the interviews, the fact that he was beaten, his dad says something about he had straight teeth, and when I looked in his mouth afterwards, his teeth were crooked and one was pushed in more than the other. Backtrack to the autopsy photos. They take a picture of his teeth for us. No, they're just teeth. There's nothing wrong with them. He doesn't have any like trauma to his gums or anything. There's no tooth is pushed backwards. Like it's just his teeth. So they're constantly trying to spin the story in a way that makes it look like he was nothing but a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So just all the little things that his parents are saying, you know, his nails were cut, he was hit with a stun gun, he was beat. There is nothing to back up any of these claims, aside from the stun gun one where you see the marks on him,
mm-hmm.
but that's it. There's nothing else to back up any of the like out of pocket things that these people are saying. Oh, the girl let him into the gym and the boys tag teamed and beat him up. Like, where are you getting this from? Nowhere. The other thing making it a little sketchy is the video footage. So there are so many claims that the footage is altered, right? But if you actually listen to them when they're speaking, they say that the cameras in the school are motion activated. So if there's no motion, there's not going to be any recording for that amount of time that no motion was present. So they're like, oh, well, the camera stops recording now and doesn't pick up until however long. Well, yes, because however long in between is when there was no motion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a simple concept to grasp. And everyone is just looking right past that and they're like, no, they deleted things. Okay, how are you going to say that they deleted things, but at the same time say that the video is not clear enough and that the camera was fucked with? So clearly you could see on the camera, it was just fuzzy. What is it? And on top of that, on January 10th, the day that he was last seen on that video, going into the gym around 1:09 in the afternoon to get his shoes, right? There were people in and out of that gym until 8 o'clock that night. At what point were the two boys in there waiting for him, shoving him into a gym mat. And then so a lot of the people who are like, well, there's so many people in there, why didn't he call for help? Well, why didn't anybody hear him yelling for help? He was constricted in a gym mat. Not only is he in head first, right, in this gym mat, where his body is mostly taking up the whole entrance, the whole opening. If he's yelling inside this mat while people are out there playing basketball, laughing, talking, doing whatever, and you've been in a gym, noise fucking echoes. You bounce a basketball and it rings in your ears for 5 minutes. He can't breathe. And he's in this thick ass fucking mat. How loud do you think his yelling is going to be?
He didn't start hyperventilating. Who said he didn't have an anxiety attack or something and passed out? And say he did pass out for the length of time he was, if he was, by then, and like you were saying, all the blood rushing, that puts you out for good.
Exactly. No one knows how long he was actually even conscious in there for. He very well could have realized he got himself stuck and had a panic attack and passed the fuck out and then died of asphyxiation. Or he didn't pass out immediately, and even if he was yelling, it was just hard for people to hear him. Or maybe he wasn't yelling, maybe he was just trying to, but
again, that's the press against.
Imagine being so compressed that you can't even take a deep breath in. How are you gonna yell?
Yeah.
You can't. Like, if I tried to try to yell with a tiny little breath, what are you getting out? Absolutely nothing. So that's another, like, doesn't make very much sense. And people harp on the fact that there was people in and out of the gym and somebody should have been able to see him or hear him and help him. You don't know if he was conscious in there. Mm-hmm. You don't know if you could even hear him. You don't know if he even had enough room to take a deep enough breath to yell for help.
Well, that's another thing, like you said, too, and then we can move forward. But how many people, I wonder, can breathe all the way out and then yell? Because that's probably how it was. Breathe everything out and then try to yell. You may get one noise, something, try to yell. You can't. So he was probably breathing.
No.
Being constricted by those mats, he probably tried to yell. But even if he could, like I said,
he had no air to be yelling.
Try to get one little noise out. But I want people to take a deep breath, breathe it all the way out, and then try to yell.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Oh, because it makes me panic a little bit. On to the next. Why is it so sketchy, right? So it took them really long to finish the interviews. Mm. In the month of January, they interviewed 33 people. Okay. In the month of February, they interviewed only 4 people. In the month of March, they interviewed 1 person. It wasn't until April where they decided to finally start conducting actual interviews and interviewed 72 people. I don't remember what I had for breakfast 2 days ago. I'm not going to remember something 3.5 months later. And I mean, I feel like everyone knows that the interviews should be done as close to something happening as possible because your memory is fresh. You remember a whole lot more detail in January than you do in April. Little sketchy on the police side. Why did you wait so long to interview people? So I can understand why they're like, that doesn't make sense to me, right? So there was also blood found underneath the sneaker that was underneath him and not actually on the sneaker. So a lot of people's argument is, well, why is there not blood on the shoe? Why is it only under the shoe? As if someone placed the shoe into the blood. But again, we don't even know what part of him this blood was leaking from, right? So, I mean, obviously it's on the part of the shoe that's touching it. But it very well could have leaked from his mouth, his, if you look, I think like near his eye, his skin ripped a little bit from bloating. It could have leaked from there and just fell in the spot and pooled under the shoe, because blood does pool. It doesn't have to just gush out of people. That's not always the case. So just because in this part of the mat no blood was physically dripping on the shoe and it only pooled underneath it, doesn't mean that it was intentionally put in there. There are a lot of other scenarios where the blood could end up under the shoe instead of on the shoe. So again, hyperfixating, blood on a shoe. And one of the things I genuinely don't get is during his very first autopsy, they absolutely butchered him for no reason. So one of the people who reviewed the first autopsy said in his 23 years of doing what he does, he's never seen anyone be examined the way that he was. So they did what they call a cervical vertebrae autopsy, which is normally done in people who are in like car accidents and stuff to see if they broke their spine or anything along those lines, where they're cut from their shoulders to the bottom of their back on each side of their spine so that you can see it. In 23 years of working, this man has not seen this done on a random possible accidental death, even a homicide. So the question is, why? Why did you feel the need to do that type of procedure for this case? Like, what was it? And you never really get an answer either about why they decided to do the cervical vertebrae autopsy. There's zero answer as to why they did it. Just, they did it. So I'm kind of with the family on that one of like, the fuck did you cut him up so much for if it wasn't necessary? As of September of 2023, the Johnsons are still on a search for answers. So they appeared in court again to rebut the 2022 synopsis that Sheriff Polk had come to of an accidental death. They filed another lawsuit, this one for $1 billion, against the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Lowndes County Sheriff Office, demanding that during this one there is a jury trial on all of the questions or facts that were raised in the complaint that they issued against them. So now they're like, okay, we want everyone to have to sit down in a courtroom and listen to what you did and why you did it and why we think that you guys are covering this up. Also, we want $1 billion. $1 billion.
That's just greedy now.
Like, you're being ridiculous.
Being greedy.
You have sued for 100,000, for 100 million, for $1 billion. Like, what are you doing? You're just suing everyone and everything that you can possibly think of. In January, this past January of 2024, they hosted a balloon release at his final resting place. They call it his Angelversary. So they did a balloon release on his 11th Angelversary this year, and they did say that they have no intent on stopping anytime soon until they figure out what happened to Kendrick.
At least I can say right now, like, you know what, good for them too for not stopping. But at the same time, I'm glad that it seems like that boy's finally getting the peace and the rest he needed.
For now.
For now.
I mean, we don't know anymore because they've exhumed him twice already. Who's to say that they're not going to do it again? But so this is why I'm so in between. I'm not in between because in my heart of hearts, I do think that it was an accident. But I can also see how you would think that it's not. You know, there are a couple things here and there that are just kind of like, okay, like that's a little bit questionable. Or do I think that he was rolled up in the mat? No, I don't. I don't think that he was rolled up and put in there. I think if anything...
Neither do I, because if you were going to put a body in there and roll it up, why would you position him the way he was found? Exactly.
So I guess maybe to make it look like he was reaching down in there for a shoe, but still, it's such a weird way.
That's shooting pretty high too. Like somebody clipped his nails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's what do they say? Reaching. That's reaching.
100% is reaching, and I can get behind the theory of a stun gun, right?
So that's like you said, you're either on the left side or the right side, or in between. I was more on the right side of you saying, yeah, in your heart of hearts, it's an accident.
Mm-hmm.
But now hearing about the stun gun, knowing that those boys' father
is an FBI agent,
or was an FBI agent,
mm-hmm.
where I know they do carry that, and it's very hard for a civilian to get one.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried. Certain states, it's just illegal. I don't know what the law is in Georgia. But that's the only thing that I'm having a hard time on this whole case. Is the stun gun marks the boy's father being an FBI agent who has it. Could they have possibly taken it?
Sure. But at the same time,
that's like I said, that's what I'm stuck on.
One boy was 85 miles away.
Exactly, and the other one was in class.
And the other one was in class the whole time. So, whatever. Fine. I can get behind the idea of him being hit with a stun gun.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that made him pass out. And then somebody stuck him in a mat where he then suffocated. But, I'm not necessarily saying...
But at the same time, who's to say it was that fresh or not? It could have been an older one.
That's what I said earlier. Yeah. You have no idea how recent that those marks are. And again, he could have just been a boy being a boy and zapping himself with his friends at some point. Because why not? Right? Happen. It happens. So for a while, when I first heard this case, I was angry with everyone who was investigating it because the way his parents had presented it to the public and the way that it had spread across the media was that it was 100% a cover-up and there was no other option. They had it so well perceived to be a murder case that anyone and everyone who was looking into it was like, oh, hell no. There's no way that this kid did this himself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time...
freak accidents do happen.
Accidents happen all the time. And yeah.
Some of the most gruesome ones are left, unanswered.
Right. And it's just like, sure, he didn't mean to put himself in the situation that he did. But it happened. It's like the Nutty Putty guy. The guy who got stuck in a cave. Because he thought that he could reach down in there.
Before we get farther up, that name still confuses me for it. So that's why it took me a minute. But yeah.
In his mind, it wasn't, if I reach down here, I'm going to get stuck and not be able to get back up. It was, all right, well, let me reach down here and then I'll just back my way out. Which I'm almost positive is the same exact thing that was going on in Kendrick's brain at the time. Well, I'm just going to reach down in here, grab my shoe, and then back myself out. Except backing himself out did not happen, unfortunately. And he got himself stuck in there in a position that he couldn't get out of, couldn't yell for help in. And essentially just suffocated to death. And it's a horrible, horrible way to die. But you can't just go on this witch hunt for the rest of your life because you can't accept the fact that accidents happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so tired of the podcasts and the news articles and the videos and anything and everything that don't talk about the fact that it's like 90% on the side of accident. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of like questionable shit in there, and that's fine because it's weird. I mean, how many times do you see someone get stuck in a gym mat? It's not normal. But like we just said, random accidents happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the time. So I advise anyone who wants to look into this case to look into it with no judgment.
Open eyes and an open heart.
Open eyes, open ears, open everything. Like, just if you're going to dive into it and you're going to investigate it and you're going to do research on your own, don't take the first thing that you read as a fact. Because I dug and I dug and I dug and I dug, and the amount of times that stories changed or things were different, so many discrepancies in almost everything that you read. I know that this is not the normal take on this case, because like I said,
I feel like this is more. Almost
every single thing that I listened to or read or came across was backing it for murder, and I can't get on board with calling innocent kids murderers. I mean, they're not kids now, but they were kids then, and I can't get on board with calling innocent people murderers when we know absolutely nothing. We have zero evidence pointing to them being murderers.
It was just he say, she say.
He said, she said, and a witch hunt from the parents who are just dead set on pinning this on someone, and those two boys just happened to be the ones that they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that FBI cover-ups don't happen?
Oh,
they for sure do. I am absolutely positive that they happen out there in the world, but do I think that this was one of them?
No.
I don't. I genuinely don't. That is my opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own. If you're squeamish and you don't like gross things,
don't look at the
I highly recommend not looking at the crime scene photos, and I highly recommend not looking at the autopsy photos. So, yeah, how do you feel?
Well, I already told you my 2 cents of what I'm really stuck on. But I also feel like out of all our podcasts, I know we haven't done much, but this is more sad.
It's very sad.
And I think the reason why is because we're both parents.
Yeah.
So coming from a parent's point of view, it definitely...
I did say in the beginning, this case is messy.
Mm-hmm.
And I meant it. It is messy. It is all over the goddamn place. It is up, it's down, it's over, it's back. It's messy. And I feel like a lot of the mess is because of the people who are supporting the claim for murder so highly. And that's all that they're spreading out there, is all of these rumors and accusations with absolutely nothing to back them up. So it just gets messier and messier. And who knows? I mean, it's 2024 and they said that they're not stopping. So we'll see. If anything else comes to light with this case, we'll do an update on it. Because at this point, it's been, 11 years now? You never know. Things happen. Things pop up. And that's it. That's all I have for today. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know. Genuinely, I want to know where you stand. Like, do you think it was an accident? Do you think that he was murdered? I want to know why, if you think that he was murdered. Like, I want to know what it is that's making you think that. I mean, I also want to know why you think it was an accident, because I have my reasons that I think it's an accident, and everybody else has their reasons that they think what it is that they think. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know how you feel about it. And we'll see you back next week Also, I'm really sorry about last week and the no video. I don't know what happened. My whole video turned green. I looked like an alien.
She-Hulk.
There was like, my head was here and here and here at the same time, and everything was green, and I deleted it and re-uploaded it, and
Your true form.
My true form came out, and I couldn't show it to you. I'm sorry. Go ahead over to Instagram, follow, like, go ahead to our Patreon. Follow and subscribe.
YouTube.
Yeah. So you can find us on YouTube. You can follow, subscribe, share with your friends. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Patreon. You can find us on Facebook. I don't do that. I haven't finished that one yet. Don't go to Facebook. I literally just made it and it's not ready yet. But you have all of the other options that I said that I don't remember. Hold on. One more time.
Almost everything but Twitter.
Oh, we should do it.
No.
Okay, everybody. That's it. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Katie.
I'm your host, Tim.
And remember to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Patreon. You can find our podcast on Spotify. If you don't want to watch the video part of it on YouTube and you want to just listen to us be annoying,
they'll miss this beautiful face.
They will miss your beautiful face. They will. And tell your friends, tell your families, tell us what you like, what you don't like. You can also send us an email at talkeviltome@gmail.com. We are checking them all the time. And hopefully next week you'll see our faces. Yeah?
Yeah.
Bye.